Right. Let's get into it, lads. Let's get into it. Am I live? I think I'm live. Have a little gander, make sure I'm all good before I start moaning and whinging. Looks all okay to me. Okay. I think I'm all good, but change it on the fly. Oh, it's looking spicy. Loading up some images just to get ready to show. Okay. Getting some pictures for evidence. Okay. I think I'm ready to go. So, the result that's just happened against Tottenham Hotspur is it's a hard one to take. It's not great. It doesn't feel good. You know, before we get into the main topic of all this aside, like the match that we played for a large spell of the game was one that deserved a point to some degree. Um and we walk away with none. Now now Matip did concede the own goal at the end, but I think it's very harsh to go in on him for it. He barely put a foot wrong for all of the game, and literally last second, just a very unfortunate like bob of the foot, and it takes the ball into our net, and it's painful. It is painful because I think we deserve the point from that at the very least. Even more so because of the officiating um, that happened. Well, not only today, not only tonight, but in general, the officiating of this league is just shambolic, and that's going to be what this whole live stream is about. So it's we're going to go into pretty much most of the decisions that happened tonight, my overall opinion on like VAR, and my overall opinion on referees, and just talk about like what happened and what can even be done about it. So first things first, the red card for Curtis Jones. Now I get that it could be considered dangerous play because his studs were up and he hits the guy. He hits I can't even remember who it was. Now it was a Basuma, I think, and it does look like a bad challenge. I'm not going to deny that, but I might be wrong about this. Um, for serious foul play, I thought intent had to come into it, and not only that, you can see that his foot actually bobs because of the ball. So I watched it back just before going live, but you can actually see Curtis's foot is facing outwards. So his studs are that way. When the ball rolls his foot, it rolls it so his ankle slides forward, and that's what takes it into Basuma's leg, which then makes it the bad challenge. Originally, Simon Hooper just gave a yellow card for it, and that felt fair. Like that felt like enough. VAR intervened. I actually need to check who was on VAR, um, because I want to use their name for this. Um, so Darren England and Dan Cook decided to intervene and take a look. and decided that actually that was serious foul play, and not only that, but it was a very clear and obvious error in terms of them getting involved that sent Simon Hooper to the screen, which made him rescind the yellow card and just hand him a straight red card, which obviously bans him for 3 games. Now, obviously, if I'm wrong about the intent thing, then I still would argue the case. But I'd also say if intent does come into it, you can see that Curtis doesn't have any intent to do that tackle in that way. He tries to stand on the ball and stop it, and it was a moving ball away from him. It's a fair challenge. It was 50-50. And he even apologises straight after. He actually tries to help Basuma get up. He's standing there, he's apologising, he's holding his hands up. He's like, going like that, like saying sorry. Howard Webb gives him the yellow. Darren England, Dan Cook send him over to the monitor and get him to rescind it and turn it to a red card. Hard done by, but you've got to move on. They're not gonna overturn that now. You've just got to get on with it. And I thought that was the worst of it. I thought that was going to be the last of our tropes because we're now down to 10 men. Usually there's a little bit of sympathy for these players when they're down to 10 men and they've already hit a bit of a stumbling block. But I was wrong. So before even the second incident, there was so many little things that happened during the match which just gave our players yellow cards, and it felt like a lot of their players towards the end this changed, but a lot of their players were getting ignored for yellow cards. There was a couple. I think Richarlison might have got one, but other than that, there was no real, at least frequency to them like ours were. The second incident was Jota's red card, which I won't lie to you, the foul that gave him the red card or the second yellow in the end was a foul, and it was probably a yellow card. He strikes out because he lost the ball. You could maybe argue that the 2 players on him beforehand, caused him to do that because Simon Hooper was not giving him anything. So he, got in his own head, got riled up, kicked out, and ultimately got himself booked and got himself his second yellow card. And, then he's off. But the first one that he picked up, I mean, I don't actually even know what happened. Like, I know what happened, but I don't know what the referee's seen there in order to give that, and why that's not like. I just don't understand how that happens. Like, it's mad that these guys are in charge of the game. It is mental. So, the first yellow card that Jota got, he's running back. We're trying to track back to defend. I think it's Doggy has got the ball. He's running. Jota runs in behind them, doesn't clip him or anything like that, as far as I can see. Doesn't pull on his shirt, doesn't drag his shoulder back, anything like that. Doesn't do that. Doggy trips himself up. A few steps later, you see his foot clatter into the back of his calf, and then he falls down and screams and pretends to be hurt because he's just doing what a footballer would normally do, even though it's scummy as hell. But that gets Jota a yellow card apparently. And while I'm not disagreeing that the second yellow card he picked up was probably a yellow card, shouldn't have been sent off. That first one was not a yellow card. In fact, actually, if that's the case, and you realise you made that mistake, as you're Simon Hooper, you realise you made that mistake and that first one wasn't a yellow card, you'll allow that second one then. You've already gave him the yellow card for that in advance. But that's apparently something you shouldn't do, but you also shouldn't do these mistakes in the game in the first place. So you've already messed yourself up and shot yourself in the foot. And yeah, so Jota sent off. From then on, it's just more and more disappointment from the referee. Yellow cards picked up here and there, yellow cards not picked up for them here and there, until the end when it doesn't really matter because we're playing a 5-3 system. Not even a 5-3-1, 5-3. So we had, at the end, 5 defenders in Trent, Gomez, Matip, Kanate, Virgil and Robbo. And then we had a front 3 of Endo, McAllister at first and Szoboszlai. McAllister then replaced with Gravenberg. And that was our team for the remainder of the game. And we were doing well. The boys were doing really, really good in terms of not conceding a goal and, keeping strong, keeping compact, making sure chances were cut, angles were cut off. All those sort of situations that you'd want to, make sure you do and you stay focused on. And it's just unfortunate that at the very end, a ball gets whipped in, flashes past the face of goal. Matip, as probably 9 times out of 10 he would succeed at doing, would just try and cut it out and send it out for a corner. His foot bob's wrong and it takes it in for a goal, an own goal, and that's probably the worst feeling in the world for him. Because as I said, it's so unfair. Like he was solid for most of the game. Well, he was solid for all of the game. It was just that like slight moment at the very end, less than a minute left. It's just unfortunate, and I can't really blame him. It's a mistake that happens. It's just a very painful one today, and it's just hard to take. Now, VAR is not clear of this either, because you could argue that Simon Hooper did a terrible job in obviously picking up, giving people yellow cards and not giving people yellow cards. But a lot of that VAR can't intervene, so you can't call a referee to rescind a yellow card. You can't send them over to rescind a yellow card, and you also can't call them over to give a yellow card either. So VAR, you might think is manages to avoid any criticism today, but no, they don't, because shortly before, or was it just shortly after half time, we get a comeback goal from, I believe it was Diaz, which it was contentious offside. I'm just going to load up the images now while I'm talking, just to show you what we see. So actually, let me get one without the lines first, if that exists. I mean, I've just seen like Diaz. Let me get one without the lines that have been drawn post. There we go. There's one. So let me just load this up now for you. Let me read through the chat. Actually, I'm so proud of what the team no matter what. The team did brilliantly today, given the situation, given the circumstances. The team did flawlessly. Like, you can't ask for any more than what they did. So here's, sorry for the impromptu photo being added here, but let me just expand on that further. There you go. On the fly editing. Look at that. So to the naked eye, you would probably say that could be onside, that could be offside. But I'd like to see the lines before I make my decision. The lines should be, in my opinion, a permanent thing that we see at all times whenever you go to VAR. I actually said during the match, I think that's onside, and I can't wait for this to be given. For some reason, we just didn't focus on it. Like, they just looked at it, went, yeah, no, that's offside, clearly. And, no lines got drawn. And I think we're still waiting for an official word from the PGMOL and the Premier League to discuss what actually happened there. But just to clarify, before I move on to what happened, just to clarify, earlier today there was a game, Luton versus Everton, where Everton scored a goal and they took about 3 minutes to check that Dominic Calvert-Lewin was onside before they gave the goal. This didn't even get 3 minutes. Like, this barely got a minute, if that. They looked at it, didn't draw the lines, didn't zoom in. They just went, yeah, that's it, that's offside. And then they moved on. Someone mentioned that it was because they wanted to keep the flow of the game. They wanted to keep the game going. Which, if that's true, is a ridiculous excuse, because that's not what VAR is meant to do. VAR is meant to intervene to make sure they get the right decision. And you can't just pick and choose what VAR's intended use is as and when you want to. It's either meant to make the game better and make sure they get the right decision, or it's not. And right now, they clearly have not made the right decision, because beIN Sports decided during the half-time interval, they're going to draw the lines on themselves. And this is the result. Sorry, the image is that large. This is the result of their amendments, and I mean, immediately you can see he's way onside. Immediately you can see he's way onside, which proves that the fact that your eyesight can still be better than some VAR officials, apparently, which should absolutely not be the case. But, I mean, sadly, we're in this situation where it is. And just to make sure, this is allegedly from beIN Sports. They actually did speak about this. This isn't just an image I found and I'm just believing. This is something that beIN Sports did address. They spoke about it live on their show, and they also why is that moving? Nope. They also couldn't believe, like the rest of Liverpool, could not believe that this wasn't checked in more detail and that this wasn't like explained. Even to this point now, I haven't checked, but it's shambolic. In fact, actually, during the halftime break, Sky have said that they've received the images with the lines, but they could not show it because second half had kicked off. Which, like, we didn't join back before kickoff. We joined back after the ball had been kicked off, which, since I've been watching this season for sure, maybe even since I've been watching, of all time, I've never seen Sky come back to a game where they've already kicked off. And why also would you not show, if you've got the picture, why would you not show this? And to me, it just screams that they've clearly got the decision wrong and that they're trying to come up with some excuse, some workaround, some adjustments, some edits, some, I don't even know. Like, it's one of those. How is this allowed? Like, it's baffling, and that's what does my head in the most. Is officials are so entitled and so arrogant and cocky when you don't deserve to be. You have not commandeered enough respect to get that, like, untouchable status. You have controversies every week. You do not have the arrogance to say, you can't tell me when I'm doing a bad job, otherwise you'll get a red card or a yellow card or whatever. Like, it's shambolic. How are they the most protected things in football? It's a joke. I actually can't, I'm laughing, but it's because I can't believe it. Like, it's mental. And just, yeah, so this was apparently a picture from the studio. They have a video on it, but I'm not going to put it on because I think copyright and stuff like that will get me done in. But there is other pictures as well. I'm going to show you them now. So that was the beIN Sports studio that showing you that. This is apparently the Sky Sports studio picture. Which, I mean, if you ask me, looks very believable based on the set. There you are. So, as you can see, Diaz being the green line, and I don't know what defender that is. Is it Mickey van der Ven? Being the yellow line. Still clearly onside, so again, matches what beIN Sports, suggested earlier. And I have another alleged Sky Sports studio picture here. That one is a bit more contentious that it's from Sky Sports Studio, but that might be the panel in the desks by the looks of it. But again, it shows the same image, shows that Diaz is onside, shows that the VAR clearly made an error in this decision. And it's just suspicious that it took them this long to make any sort of public statement and any sort of acknowledgement of wrongdoing. And even then, it's pointless. I hate when they do this. So many times, like the one I was using the most was the Wolves game at the start of the season to United, where they were denied a penalty, and they actually said that they got that wrong, and they issued an apology to Wolves. Issuing an apology is so pointless because it does not do anything for the team. If your team is facing relegation at the end of the season and you miss out by 1 point, which you could have got because of a penalty that was not given at the start of the season, what good sorry? Like, you've just potentially ruined the club's financial structure, ruined, the club's survival chances, it's a joke. All and sorry covers it. Apparently, that's it's shambolic. It needs to be changed. There is news coming in, and I'm gonna read it out to you shortly. But there was one more picture I wanted to show, and it was after I think it was, I can't remember what. It must have been like after his first yellow card. But this is a picture, again, one of my biggest gripes, because McAllister got booked for this at the start of the season, where a doggy is asking for Jota to be booked, and showing the waving of the hand. Got no yellow card from it, because he's wearing white. I mean, at this point, there's so many issues with this officiating that you just gotta laugh at it, but only in a way where you're like losing your mind, because otherwise you will actually just lose your mind and just get stressed. So that was the last picture I wanted to show so far. Apparently a statement has been issued. I'm just going to go through a couple of things before we get into that. So a quote from I'll start with the Virgil one because that's the one I've got loaded up. He said after the game, I'm losing faith. It's difficult to say. The VAR should be absolutely clear and obvious with everything they're deciding on. I've seen the still back, and I think on live TV there were no lines being shown. It's all a bit strange. I don't know who was in the VAR room making that decision. It's not a good thing. It doesn't look well either. It is what it is. We lost. So he's publicly calling out the officiating to right. If he gets a fine, that's also ridiculous. And here we go. There's a breaking... the PGMOL has said that Luis Diaz's goal was onside, but a significant human error was made. How is VAR making significant human errors? How are they making significant human errors? They are allowed whatever time they need to ensure the right decision is being made from a position of several angles, however many, assistance they need. It's just, how is that allowed to happen? It's so dodgy. Klopp has commented on it as well. I'm going to read you his things now. He has said, where did he say? He said a lot, actually, so I'll go through it all. He said, I've never seen a more unfair game. Curtis steps his foot on the ball and rolls the legs. Whatever you do with that, it was not a bad tackle. He stepped on the ball. Basically insinuating the exact same thing I said, where he actually stepped on the ball and the ball turned his foot because it rolled forward, and that made it a challenge. Again, still, yeah, dangerous because studs are up, but not a red card, a yellow card at most. He says Jota's first yellow card was never a yellow card, and the only thing we didn't get today, other than decisions, is the results. He then goes on to praise the team. He said that the goal that Diaz scored was not offside. They drew their lines wrong. Well, that's actually incorrect here, because they did not draw lines at all. Apparently, someone at halftime saw it on Instagram or Twitter and actually brought it up at the time, which I think is interesting, because that shows to them that they were convinced that they had the right decision in the first place to go back and actually look on the phone and assess the decision that was made by the ref and by VAR. He asked on a comment for the game, they said, for you it's funny, for me it's just expensive. And I think if anyone does find this, decision funny, beyond the rival fan base going, haha, Liverpool lost, you're always going to get those people. I'm not really asked about them. But if anyone thinks that the actual refereeing tonight, even Spurs fans, think that the refereeing tonight was of standard, you should be worried. You should be so scared, because that could easily go against you in a different game when it's way more, crucial for it not to. The fact that it can so clearly be exploited and, corrupted without any justification or justice or anything along those lines is ridiculous. And it's basically just killing off any competition. It's just whatever storyline they want to go with. And nothing will ever happen to them. because they'll just say, "Oh, human error, sorry, lol," and that's it. Then they've done their bit. But yeah, I've never saw. Klopp goes on to say, "I've never saw a game like this with the most unfair circumstances and crazy decisions." He said that the actual tackle from Curtis Jones looks different in slow motion. And he also says about Udogi's yellow card, where I don't know if this is the second or the first one, where he says he hit his leg, he got a yellow. It is crazy. Then again, I'm just continuing to say that he does go on and praise the team significantly for the performance, as should we all. We got done in by referee and officials today. That's just the gist of it. We've just got to take it on the chin, because nothing's going to happen retrospectively, because it never does. And this might be a bit controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I'm fuming. People always say that you should never wish people to get sacked or, lay anyone off. But if this is me and my job, I get sacked. That's just the gist of it. Now, I would rather he doesn't get sacked, but I would rather we take a lesson from this and we can, improve the standard. Because ultimately, the only reason I'm suggesting that is because this happens week in, week out. If you make a mistake, you're meant to learn from it and do better next time. And every week there's some sort of controversy with VAR, and it's exhausting. And they never learn anything. Never. Every single week is a bad decision. It's like a challenge to them. The YouTube videos, it's like, try not to such and such challenge. Try not to, make a massive fuck up in your job. This challenge from the VAR. Oh, you failed immediately. Thank you. So I'm going to read you the full PGMOL statement. There's a lot of Twitter interaction that's going off tonight with regard even to some Liverpool fans. Mo Salah's liked a video from beIN Sports that shows that the line was drawn incorrectly. Well, not even checked properly, to be fair. And they've just released a statement, and I'll read it in full. The PGMOL acknowledges significant human error occurred during the first half of the Tottenham Hotspur vs Liverpool game. I'm guessing that's meant to say. The goal by Luis Diaz was disallowed for offside by the on-field team of match officials. This was a clear and obvious factual error and should have resulted in the goal being awarded through VAR intervention. However, the VAR failed to intervene. PGMOL will conduct a full review into the circumstances which led to the error. PGMOL will immediately be contacting Liverpool at the conclusion of the fixture to acknowledge the error. Acknowledgement is not enough. What is acknowledgement going to do? You've acknowledged it there. Significant human error. Yeah, you've acknowledged it publicly. Do something about it. I mean, I don't know what, because it's equally unfair to Spurs, because now the only retrospective action you can take is to either award the goal after the game and make it a draw, or replay the game, of which is unfair for both, because situations would have changed in the game if it was awarded, or if we knew it was going to be awarded. And it's just like how VAR was brought in to make sure the right decision was made, and it's always been argued a toss on whether or not VAR is working or not. I was always on the side of VAR would work, but we need better people to run it, and this is clear more than ever. Now, this one is just a clear and obvious error, which is ironic because that's their whole thing. You have as much time as you need, every angle you need, every tool you need to make sure that is given properly, and it wasn't. Why did they not take, what is the reason they didn't take time? Is it because you wanted to keep the flow of the game going? Because what's the point in VAR then? Get rid of it then. I don't want to get rid of it. I want us to keep it, but I want us to get proper people who actually can make the decisions on it. So, yeah, hard one to take. Everyone, I think generally the the whole footballing community right now is sympathising with us and empathising with us. And it's ridiculous that we had to wait for so long after the game before an apology was even. Well, actually, they haven't even apologised in that public statement. They've just acknowledged an error, and you know, it is what it is. Let me read some of your guys' comments out because I don't want to just be waffling away myself and not say anything to you guys. It is alive at the end of the day, so let's make it alive, baby. Fuck VAR, to be honest. Back it. Not even just VAR, though. Is actually the officiating as a whole was corrupt tonight. Yeah. I mean, I think overall, it's hard to say this because they both massively messed it up. The officiating was definitely worse. There were so many yellow cards given that shouldn't have been yellow cards. There were so many yellow cards given to them that weren't given. And the red cards were so contentious. And yeah, they maybe didn't make as big of a decision against, the offside VAR call because VAR have more tools at their disposal at the time to make sure they get the right decision, and Simon Hooper doesn't. But they're as bad as each other at the very least. So, we don't accept such ridiculous apologies. The whole crew must be sacked. I mean, if there's actual change, and it's hard to say this without seeing it first, because they could just say, yeah, the actual change will take place, but it's how do we know that? You've said that before and it hasn't. It's just referees just getting worse, actually. But Darren England, Dan Cook, even Michael Oliver, even Simon Hooper, Adrian Holmes, Simon Long, all the officials of tonight just did a terrible, terrible job. And we've heard before from previous referees, now retired, that they will absolutely just take their own agendas into this. In that, I can't remember who it was now, but there was someone last season for a Tottenham game where someone had their hair pulled, and it was they said they didn't send them to the screen and give a penalty for it because they were aware that the game had already been refereed with quite difficulty that night. I was like, that shouldn't matter to you. The game should be officiated to the best of your ability. Whether or not he's had a tough time, officiating it or not, that's on him. That's on his level of quality. Don't bring your own agendas into the game. Real question, if the officials took the wrong bad decision, what would happen to them? Keep in mind how detrimental those decisions can be for any team. Well, off history, nothing really of significance happens to the officials. They get laid off for a week or two, sometimes with pay, sometimes without pay, and they then get put on jobs again, going from least spotlighted to most spotlighted in time. Simon Hooper was the one, I think, that didn't give Wolves the penalty, and I think he was taken off it for a week or two, and then was put back on it, and within a couple of weeks is back on Spurs versus Liverpool, where he obviously made a shit decision again. So that shows you that whatever his name was, that I think is Polish referee last season who elbowed Andy Robertson in the face. If you just reverse the roles of that and put a player in that position, elbowing a linesman, what do you reckon happens to that player? Subsequent ban, fine, all that. Referee just had to say sorry to Andy Robertson. That was it. VAR was against Liverpool. VAR and the officials were against Liverpool today. FA PGMOL is fucked. Yes. Paid referee, correct. Always against Liverpool. I mean, sadly, it does. I don't know if it's just bias or what, but it does feel like it. I guess every team must feel like this, to be honest. But Paul Tierney, David Coote, now Simon Hooper, Darren England, all of them just have always had shocking. I mean, Paul Tierney was last season's referee against Spurs for us when Harry Kane slid into Robbo and didn't get a red card, but then Robbo, I think, did something later on and got a red card himself and sent off. And it's all the time we're up against it. I mean, this season alone, we've had 3 or 4, now 5 red cards maybe. I think we played about half the season with 10 men, 9 men. It's a joke. And it does feel like it's just an agenda against us. And the thing is, people just think, oh, you're wearing a tinfoil hat. And I'm worried about that being true. But I don't see how it's not the case. Like, what reason would they have to have an agenda against Liverpool? Well, outside of Liverpool, there is a, a narrative of Liverpool always being the victims because people like to make up things in disrespect, and honestly, that could just be a part of it. Like, we're a passionate bunch, and people don't like that, especially when you question authority. And we're a city that embeds itself in questioning authority a lot. So, what do the apologies give us? Absolutely nothing. Zero. Literally nothing. It gives us like a vain, hollow gesture. That's it. Like, this one's massive, by the way, because VAR has actually just failed. It's factually failed. Like, previously you could argue that it's failed. It's just actually failed tonight. And I hate saying VAR because it's not VAR. It's the people that use VAR. They're not good enough. Our referees are not good enough. They make wrong decisions week in, week out, and they're untouchable with them. If you so much as question them during the game, red card, yellow card, you're off. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Stevie Wonder would have seen Diaz's onside, for fuck's sake. Fuck the refs of VAR. Yeah, that's a great comment. I love that. The human eye could see Diaz was onside, so what exactly was the human error? Gary confirmed on Sky that the check was completed immediately. They didn't check it. It's corruption at the highest level. VAR has to go after this. A mistake of this magnitude cannot be allowed to happen again. I mean, you're right. I don't want VAR to go because I think it will be useful. I think it would help. It's helped a lot of teams in the past. It's obviously not helped a lot of teams in the past for the wrong reasons or for the right reasons. But it's more the officials that use it. Like, get good enough staff. You are not. The PGMOL is not to the standard this league needs to be. It's a joke how they still have a job. Why didn't VAR show the line? Because they made a mistake, that's why. They were coming up with a statement all second half. They knew they messed up as soon as they continued play. So, that's why. It's just one of them. The only reason I've got why they didn't look at it, by the way, is a rumour that they said they wanted to keep the flow of the game going. Which is a ridiculous excuse because that is not what VAR is meant to do. VAR is meant to make sure the right decision is there. VAR should give less of a shit about how the game is going and whether or not it's being officiated properly. Like, the referees aren't the ones that dictate the flow of the game. The referees are the ones that make sure they dictate the correct decisions. Can't the FA contact Tottenham and Liverpool and come to some agreement that gives us a goal and we get a draw? And we get a draw on 1 point. I don't think it's ever been done. I don't know if it's technically allowed or legal to do that. But as far as I'm aware, it's never been done. I think we're just gonna have to bite the bullet and refuse the apology. But refusing the apology is the same as accepting the apology. Nothing will happen. So it's not good enough. It needs to change. And I don't know how you get it to change because they're the ones that make the laws themselves. They're the ones that investigate themselves. They're the ones that execute the punishment themselves. And ultimately, they're all just backing each other. So that's it's hard. It's hard not to feel demoralized from this because it's to get the gears of change going. Someone with morals has got to be in there, and we've not ever seen that from the PGMOL. Spurs won't agree to that unless it was the other way around. Well, would we? Is the question. I'd feel sorry for Spurs, but I would probably say VAR just needs to improve. That's not our problem. I'd feel empathy for them, absolutely. If this was the other way around, I'd feel empathy. And I would say, that was a bad game. The VAR need to step up and do better. But let's be honest, we probably would all be in the same boat as them. Cannot believe what I saw today. I mean, it was shambolic. It's so bad. I don't know. I think there was a rumor, by the way. Let me just pull it up. I don't know who this person is. I don't know if it's legit, but there's some apparently African reporter or journalist that said that the AFCON and the Serie A are reporting the game for match fixing. God knows why they would be bothered about this, because the AFCON is an international tournament. Maybe because Salah's, part of it. They don't want his ability or whatever to be affected by it. God knows why Serie A are bothered. God knows. But it does absolutely look like match fixing. It's coincidental that like City, United, Everton lose points. We could go top of the table, and you get such a clear and biased officiated game to Spurs. It's just too coincidental. It's baffling. It is baffling. Spurs fans buzzing. It took their team to beat 9 men with an own goal. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, yeah, it's the players should really. I mean, there's two ways to look at this. Sometimes red cards can go against you, and we saw that tonight with Spurs. Red cards can just make a team sit back and defend the whole time. And I said before, we played with a 5-3 system at the end of the game, and they were struggling to break us down despite the fact that we were just in our box the whole time. And that's why we just lost focus. There we go. They struggled. They couldn't get past that defense, and it might have been better for them us having at least another player on, maybe both of them, because we would have been more confident going forward, left ourselves a bit more exposed at the back, and ultimately they might have got something a legitimate way. They still got something, and they will, be fine with that, because ultimately that was a tough game for them. And to them, 3 points is 3 points. Like, they would still be fine with that. I wouldn't quite be so boastful because you didn't win, but you did win, if you know what I mean. It took an own goal from Matip to give you the 3 points, so it was basically gifted to you. But it's one of those, like, the win's the win, move on. Let's not focus too much on that. Professional game match officials. PGMOL. What? Oh, officiate all Premier League matches has released a statement that it wasn't offside and apologised, but that is worthless now. Yeah, I mean, imagine shooting someone and then just going to the police. Sorry. Like, that person's dead. You're sorry. Doesn't matter. That person is dead. And you shot them and you just said sorry and that's it. You don't then just get, the police don't go, oh, he said sorry, let's let him go. You are still arrested, put to court, and not put down, bloody hell, and sentenced to prison. The referee was biased. Just too many fuck-ups in one game. Reporters will try and goad Klopp into saying something, knowing he's got to be careful. No, I actually think this is the time that Klopp will be allowed a rant, because this is such a significant error to make. Like, VAR factually getting a wrong decision when they are given every tool to make sure they don't is not something that can be ignored. Klopp will be undoubtedly angered by all this, as are we all. And he's very, very passionate anyway about the officiating. He's spoken many times about Paul Tierney in the past. And there's always been a back and forth, but I don't know how you could be so arrogant to say, well, we did mess up, but you've been out of order here. It's like, no, I'm out of order because of your mistake. And that is fair. That is justified. You are here to make sure we get the right decision. And that's it. And you haven't done that. So I'm going to act in the way I need to act, because that's fair. Apologise and do the same error after repeat. I mean, that's basically the life cycle of the PGMOL. You've got it nailed down to a T there, to be honest with you, mate. Let me just move that over there just so I can look at your comments easier. It's almost like to make sure Liverpool lose at all costs. I don't want to go all conspiracy-fied, but even other teams are backing us up. Even Gary Neville was shocked. Yeah, when Gary Neville feels sorry for you, you know it's bad. You know it's bad. Um, every team needs to be empathetic towards this, because this could have been your team. Like, ignore the 12-year-olds on Twitter that laugh and go, haha, Liverpool lost, ha, on you. It's so easy to happen to your team if the narrative fits. Now, we have this possible narrative that it affects us more because we're not liked by a lot of the UK as a city. We're not liked a lot by the UK. There's history about it, but that could have played into it. I don't want to go all conspiracy theory myself as well, but I don't know what else you can do. There's no other explanation for this level of incompetence. That's it. There's got to be something more to it. You can't. These people are not put in this position because they just lucked out. You may as well hire fans from the street and just get them. As long as they don't support either of the two teams playing, just get them to get in, and they'll do the same job effectively, and they're earning probably boatloads of money as well for doing this. It's just demoralizing, deflating. Some conspiracy theories are facts. I mean, this has to be one. I don't know. The one chance that Liverpool have to go top of the table because City messed up. And for some reason, the officiating's the worst it's ever been. It's shambolic. This can happen to anybody. Something needs to be done. Yeah, these pointless apologies, they're no good. And I'd love us to reject it just as a statement. I don't want us to reject it because I think something's going to happen. I want us to reject it to make a point and say, but your apology means fuck all. Like, you still have done you've still massively messed up, and we suffer for it. The apology means nothing if you're never gonna learn, and they're not learning. That every week there's a issue, but by the end of it, they're gonna have more issued apologies than right calls. It's the way it's going. Every week they're having to issue an apology, or should realistically issue an apology for a decision they've made that's wrong. That must have been one of the quickest decisions VAR's given, ruling Diaz offside. It took about 30 seconds. Well, they didn't even check it. They just looked at it with their eyes and went, yeah, that's offside, clearly. Because VAR's meant to do that and not just, take the time, tell Simon Hooper to stop the game. I don't know how that is allowed. I don't understand. Someone explain it to me. It is baffling. Have a look, see if anything else has come out from this. Okay. So some people are taking the advantage of this to put out probably some unrealistic and fake reports, and Indicalia being one of them, has said that one of the unconfirmed rumours from the VAR officials who was in charge for drawing the lines for the offside decisions in the Spurs vs Liverpool game went to the toilet during the Diaz goal, so that's why the lines weren't drawn and that's why it was skipped over. I mean, can only one person draw lines? I want to say it's bullshit because it's Indicalia, but honestly, it wouldn't surprise me with this. Like VAR, it wouldn't surprise me. Goal line technology and offside have been the two pillars of accuracy with VAR. I've lost some confidence in last month on officials, on offsides, and this today erodes it even further. Bringing the automated system right away. The thing is, the automated system, they're saying because it's automated, it can't be accurate. Hello? So this was accurate. Someone tell me, someone explain to me how they get rid of the people. Keep VAR. Get rid of those people. And the thing is, we just gotta get called moaners and whinging, whining. victims, all that BS. But I hope this happens to you. If those people are here and they want to say that, I hope this happens to you, because then you'll quickly change your tone. For the PGMOL to have to immediately reply, it's shambolic. And the thing is, everyone, like, originally, all of the public pages on Twitter put out like this was a legitimate win for Spurs, when it wasn't. Honestly, it's shambolic. I mean, that's gonna be my most used word of the stream, shambolic. Yeah, I don't even know. I'm at a loss for words, lads. I'm at a loss for words. So many things contradicted already. Like, even the doggy asking for Jota to be booked by giving a like yellow card gesture. McAllister got booked for that, and nothing happened with the foul. So how was that allowed? Just don't that needs to go, because if you're not gonna award that every single time, which, granted, it's hard to award a yellow card for that every time, get rid. Don't just give it when you see it. Get rid entirely. I mean, honestly, there's some investigation with regards to match fixing needs to happen, because that is ridiculous. There was reports the other week of, apparently, the Saudi Arabian League want to target match officials from the Premier League next season to make sure they have the highest end officials. First off, please do take our officials. We would love you to have the PGMOL. Honestly, lads, they're the best ones in the world. Take them. You can have them. We'll be so heartbroken that they're gone. But two, they're not going anymore. They're not going. Simon Hooper's still going to be in England. Darren England is ironically still going to be in England. David Coote, Paul Tierney, they're all going to be here still next year. And is there even any other like refereeing organizations that we can like go to and rely on, or do we have to make a new one? Just use the other ones. Just use European ones for the love of Christ. Right. Just to keep you updated as well, apparently Cody Gakpo has left the stadium wearing a protective brace on his knee. If you weren't aware, during his goal to equalise us just before half-time, something happened to his knee. I'm not sure what it was. He scored. It looked like he'd done it in the twist for the goal, and he went down, played the last few minutes of the first half, went off, and was replaced by Diogo Jota in the second half. So, he's now in a protective brace. I hope he is okay, because he's really likable, but also he's like, you could see he was really trying his hardest in that game, and he's just, some things his decision making went on it, but he was really giving it like all effort. 100% was left out there for him. So I hope he's okay. I hope it's just a what's it called? Precaution. That's the word. Precaution. Something the Simon Hooper should learn the definition of. Let's have a look. Anything happening? Oh, there's a lot of comments here that I somehow have missed. That must have been one of the quickest decisions in VAR. I've read that one. Director accepts the job. What director? What director? Didn't even draw a line because it wasn't available. How convenient. How is it not available? Is that something they've officially said? They didn't have the lines available. What's the point of VAR if the lines aren't always available? What are you on about? Is that because you fucked off to the loo? Is Indy Carlia right? What? You know how they have released the comms from VR's box? Would love to hear this. That's what I mean. The thing is, I don't know if any of you guys watch the NFL, but the referees are broadcast to the stadium and to obviously the public at home when they make a decision, and it's none of it's subjective. It's all defined. And teams have the ability to question or challenge the referee on a call, and you hear them live at the time. So they will make a foul will happen, be it unsportsmanlike conduct, for example. The play will be rescinded. Whatever the play is will be rescinded. Whatever happened will be taken back. The referee will come into the middle of the pitch, will turn his mic on, will explain to the crowd and to the cameras what the decision is. If that is then challenged, the teams will throw a flag or coloured bit of tissue onto the pitch, and it will go to a higher of their VAR basically. Their VAR will analyse it while communicating with the referee, and then the referee will ultimately either keep his decision or overturn it. And typically, if you challenge the referee, you will usually get it overturned. If you don't, you lose one of your timeouts, and if you are successful, you keep either the play on the field that happened, or you get back your actually no, you don't get back your call. But ultimately, you still get the play that you are entitled to, and that's how the English or European in general, actually, that's how theirs should be. Broadcast the referees without shadow of a doubt, live and on TV, and have it be challengeable by the teams. I don't even know if challengeable is a word, but I've just created it. So, but that's too much for them. They don't want that because they want to be able to make these decisions and get away with it. So that's never going to happen. That's never going to get put into place. All rivals I've heard up to now were saying we were robbed. That's when you know something stinks. Maybe a strand of Diaz's hair blew off his head, making him off. I guess that means offside. Yeah, Diaz's presence 3 seconds into the future was offside, so therefore, goal not allowed. Not fair for Liverpool. Nope, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And we're just going to have to eat this one up, sadly. There's nothing we can do about it because all they're going to do is an apology, and that's not good enough. And nothing happens. According to Gary Neville, the check was completed instantly. In other words, they never checked it. No other word than corruption. It's so bad. It's so bad. It is just corruption. It's corruption, or it's severe negligence. It's heavy incompetence. It's all three, possibly, potentially, quite easily, potentially all three. Excuse my English. I'm just special about it. It's alright, Pappy. It's okay. Don't worry. I understood what you meant. PGMOL admit human error, but always the same excuses, nothing to rectify it. Yeah. They never learn. They're always the thing is, Simon Hooper might be suspended for a couple of weeks. I guarantee you by the end of the season, or even not even by the end of the season, by the end of the year, he's on another big game and he makes another terrible decision. I bet it. I'll bet money on that. Because they don't want to change. It feels very much like they want to make it week in, week out about them. They always want to make their mark on the game, and they should be silent. You should never notice a referee in a game. You should never be bringing up the referee as a point topic about the game. And every week, it's brought up. Every week, there's an issue with one of them. And it's not even just the same person. It's all of them. All of them are so grossly incompetent that you just there's no one left anymore that is good. There's no one left that is a good referee in the PGMOL anymore. I mean, there was very limited in the first place, but there's none anymore. So yeah. Those responsible for that robbery equals VAR should never be allowed to officiate on it again. I agree, but they will be. They just will be. They'd need to either promote some referees from the Championship, and then subsequently the Championship will need to promote some from League One. League One will subsequently need to promote some from League Two. League Two will subsequently need to promote them from the Championship. And yeah, it becomes a whole ordeal of effort to move like all of the referees up, and they're just not gonna do that. Disgusting from the ref and VAR. They need to scrap VAR. Well, my ideal is keep VAR, but put competent people on it. If you can't do that, get rid, because it's pointless. If you can't find people competent, just pack it in. Just pack it in. Not sure if it was a toilet break, but honestly, the lines weren't available. Yeah, it sounds too suspicious that they weren't available. I don't know how they're not available. Like VAR systems, they're given every tool under the sun to make sure they get the right decision, and they've fucked it massively. Jota and Jones should have had their red cards overturned. Well, the thing is, by the letter of the law, Jota's one couldn't have been overturned. Well, both of them couldn't have been overturned. Jota's one couldn't have been overturned because the second one he committed was a foul, and the red card was awarded because he was already on a yellow card. The yellow card he got originally should have been a yellow card, but VAR can't intervene on a yellow card and rescind the yellow card. It just can't be done. I don't know why. I don't know why the ref. It doesn't have to go to like a check back. You could just have the VAR go, by the way, just checked, Udogie clips himself, that wasn't Jota, rescind his yellow card. You don't have to send them to the monitor every time you want to rescind the yellow card. Just tell them. Just tell them you made the wrong choice. That should be that easy. And then play it back to the people at home or on the screens in the stadiums. When I saw just one replay of the Diaz goal, I knew it was onside. What were those morons in VAR doing? Well, apparently either shitting or pissing themselves because they were allegedly gone to the toilet. God knows why you couldn't have, gone at half time or waited for half time. I can't even remember when it was scored, but one of those two. And also why only one person can draw the lines on them. I mean, it sounds like a parody, but it's reality, and that's what's terrifying. It's so terrifying. We should be given a point and make it a draw. Well, I think if you really want to prove that acknowledgement of error and forgiveness and request of forgiveness, you should at least go back and award our goal retrospectively, which would then make it a draw. And I would be happy with that. I think that would show like a lot of bravery and responsibility on their behalf. And I think we'd all, at the end of it, have took a 2-2 draw by the end of it. Already, by the way, having been done badly too by the 2 red cards. But I think we would have taken it. And that's to them. We're skipping over the 2 terrible decisions for the red cards. And we're getting a point. And that's apparently not good enough for them because they're not going to do that. This one, it's depressing because this one's the biggest mistake they've made, I think, this season. Like, VAR has factually made a mistake here. There's no argument about it. They have made a bad decision. And nothing will still be done from this. And I'd love to eat my own words, but I don't have much hope. Yeah. That point could be the point that loses us the title. I mean, this has happened once before. Now, obviously, when I say this, contexts change. So, like, things might have played out differently. But I will always use the example of a few years ago when we lost the league to City when we played Wolves on the last day of the season, and they were playing Villa. And I think ultimately we ended the season 2 points behind them. I think it was 2 points behind them. Or a point. No, it was a point. I'm pretty sure it was a point. And they had a few weeks earlier, they had a game against Everton where Rodri handballed in the box. And a penalty should have been awarded. And it wasn't. And yeah, okay, if you awarded it, Everton might not have necessarily scored the penalty, but you'd fancy them to have scored the penalty. At the time of the game, it's likely they would have drawn the game because it was late on, and there was very little opportunity to go and score another one. I'm not saying it's impossible because it's City, but it was likely that they would have drawn the game. They weren't dominant in that game. They were, scrappy. They were just getting by. Give them that penalty, let them score it. It ends a draw. Things from that point on could have changed. They might have tried harder in certain games, but ultimately, if you look at the facts that we do know, we lost the league by a point, and they were in a situation where they should have dropped to 2, and they didn't. So effectively, that has cost us a league potentially, or at least likely, and nothing happened. They apologized to Everton because they said basically we made a mistake. You should have been given a penalty there. They apologized to Everton. Liverpool didn't hear any apology. Anyone else challenging for the title at that point didn't hear an apology. And at the time, Everton fans were fuming, and they let it go because ultimately they survived. But imagine they lost out and they got relegated, and a point saved them. They got relegated off the back of someone's shit decision, and you can't just. That's one of those where it's too far. If that happened, you can't just go back to Everton and say sorry. We'll just promote you again, and we'll take the points off someone else. But it was so close to that being the case. They were in a relegation battle. They survived by the last day. They could have easily gone down, and by a point, and they didn't get it. The fact we got 4 red cards in 7 games, 1 rescinded, tells you all you need to know about corruption. Yeah, and I think honestly one of these will be rescinded. I don't know about both of them, but I think one of these will be rescinded. It has to. It has to. And that might be the compromise they come up with, is just like, we'll rescind the red cards, but we can't do anything about the result. And that's not good enough. That's not good enough. Because the red card shouldn't have happened in the first place, let alone the result. The red cards don't happen, the game changes entirely. Now Tottenham might still have won it, but we at least get given a chance to win it. Let's have a look. I swear if that is the point to lose us the title, yeah, I mean, it's too early doors to say that's going to cost us, but it will be a very hard pill to swallow. The thing is, I want to praise the team for this because they did the best they could in the situation. They were in a position where anything they did, they were probably going to get a yellow card, and they were having to defend the whole time. And it's so easy to be a defender and get a yellow card, and they did brilliantly. And even John Matip, I know he conceded the own goal late on, but other than that, he didn't put a foot wrong, and I think that was just very, very unlucky. And I feel so sorry for him. I said early in the game that he looks knackered, and I would have probably taken him off. Not because I thought, he was shit, get him off. But he'd been defending well the whole game. And I actually was worried when he first started, but it wasn't like... I was worried for the wrong reason. And, yeah, hard one to take. Wasn't it Simon Hooper who sent off McAllister? I mean, if it is, how is this guy still in the job? Let me check. What game was that? What game did we play where McAllister got sent off? What game was it? Let's have a quick look because I want to know now. I'm curious. Was it Bournemouth? Is that the one? Yeah, Bournemouth. Liverpool vs Bournemouth match officials. That's for last season. That's for Bournemouth. Give me this season. What game week was Bournemouth? 2. Match officials for game week 2. Officials for match week 2. Let's have a look. I'm curious here. Referee was Thomas Bramall. Assistants Simon Barrett, Dan Robertson. 4th official Steve Martin. VAR Paul Turney. Assistant VAR Konstantin Hatzidakis. No, okay, so it wasn't. He wasn't the guy that sent off McAllister. Um, but Paul Tierney has got a history with us, as does Konstantin Hatzidakis. So still not a great record. Uh, he has to be. Well, I've scrolled too far. He has to be banned from Liverpool games. It won't happen. The thing is, there's so many officials that are shit that we could argue have a bias against us. They might have a bias against them, or they might just be shit. But the amount of people, the amount of referees that we've got that are terrible, or that we get that are terrible, we would have no referees left. All of them would just be banned, and we would have none left to officiate a match, which might end up better, to be honest with you. But it won't happen. So this is a crime against Liverpool. That's what I call a screw job. I mean, it feels definitely the case. A referee who sends 3 Liverpool players off in 2 games he officiated tells me it's not human error but biased, and points to the fact that he's a crap ref. Yep. I mean, I don't know if the 3rd Liverpool player in 2 games you're telling me is McAllister, that's wrong. But if it's someone else, then I mean, even the 2 that he sent off today were terrible, and he's a crap ref, because there was even the yellow cards he was dishing out weren't great. Like, Udogie tripped himself up for Jota's first yellow card. The second one, fair enough. The first one, nah. Ref greeted with a still pic of Jones' tackle that stayed on screen for 11 seconds. Yeah, they just showed a freeze frame at the last bit. They waited for about 10 seconds to show him the fact that his leg had rolled across the ball, which changed the trajectory of his foot, and also that, it wasn't intentional. Fair play to Gary Neville saying VAR cameras went on an angle and repeating that there's something going on. I mean, the noise needs to keep up, and not just from Liverpool fans, because people will just develop this narrative that we're just salty that we lost the game. But this shows that any team can suffer from it. If you're challenging and the narrative doesn't fit them, they can absolutely just do you in with bad decisions. And honestly, I'd love to be in the mind of Simon Hooper right now and Darren England. I'd love to see what they're thinking, because they better be worried. But they're not gonna be, but they better be worried. The boys will bounce back, but I agree we can't stay silent with this human error. We can't, because that's the whole point of VAR. You're meant to be able to get the right decision. You have every tool under the sun, as much time as you want, as much as people moan about the time it takes VAR to do it. As long as you get the right decision, that's fine. You've not looked at it. You've not got the right decision. You do not dictate the flow of the game. You decide the right call. You have not done that. You are void of your... You are pointless. You are pointless. Is there not a group of people in the VAR room? I think there's between 2 and 4. I think 2 people are the ones that make the decisions. One is an assistant VAR. One is the official VAR officer, I guess. And I think the other 2 people aren't really VAR officials. I think they're the ones that just collect all the footage and provide all the data to make the right decision. So, like, they will go and scrub through the data, the film, and make sure they get the right moments and stuff, and then pass it to the VAR officials, who should then analyze it and make sure they get the right call. But 2 official VAR referees are in the room, and I think 2 others are the ones that just get all the information for them. I'm sick of them using human error as a get out of jail card. It's a poor man's excuse. You either do your job right or you don't do it at all. I mean, if I make that many errors in my job, I'm probably getting sacked. I don't know why it shouldn't be the same case for them. I don't want them to get sacked, because that feels overly harsh. But at the same time, if you're not doing your job, you deserve to be sacked. So I guess I do want them to get sacked. I want this game to be I don't because the game wasn't a draw, because them yellows shouldn't have stood, which put us down to 9 men. Um, I want this game to be under investigation. This should be under. Well, they've said it's under investigation, but they're the ones investigating it. So how far is what the VAR offside was under investigation for about 2 seconds. Are they just gonna look at it, sleep? They're gonna say, "Well, yeah, we're investigating it." They're all gonna go to bed tonight. They'll wake up tomorrow morning and go, "That was shit, wasn't it? Sorry about that." Anyway, next week is the match officials, and it's the same fellas again. Um, I'm sick of them using human error as a get out of jail card as well. Yeah. Done that one. I remember the Rodri incident. Yeah, the Rodri incident was one of the ones that sticks out in my head, in my mind. I believe this happened to us last season. Crappy refs and VAR. I mean, it did. So far, I think it's been the worst it's ever been this season. We've had, I think, 4 red cards in 7 matches, and that, like, one of them was overturned. One of them was rescinded. One of them, like, subsequently was rescinded. Nothing happened to him after that. Like, he just carried on as normal. And it's a joke. If managers and players can get punished and referees are part of the game, then they should be punished for bad refereeing. That's what annoys me the most. Is they're so untouchable. They're so untouchable. It's ridiculous. You're just ruining the game, and you're so entitled. If you had done a good enough job to be that arrogant, I would have a little bit more understanding. You have not got the history, the track record to be that arrogant. You have not, and it's so frustrating because you can't do anything about it. You complain and they investigate it themselves and they decide their own punishment and they execute their own punishment, and that's usually like a couple of weeks off with either pay or no pay. But then they'll be given the next big game the week after they're back. So, Klopp at 16 minutes is still keeping Nunes. He also annoyed me at some point defending deep and ultimately getting a red card. Although we were robbed, Darwin had to come on early, but the refs are. Well, we were about to send Nunes on. We were about to send Nunes on with Trent, but Jota's second yellow card, which resulted in a red card, changed the plan. We had to bring on Endo, Kanate, and Trent, and we had to make it a back 5 with a midfield 3 and have no attackers because we were down to 9 men. We played a 5-3. We played a 5-3. And before that, I think the plan was to try and knock them out as much as possible and stick Nunes on to run them riot when they're knackered. But we had to be careful. And we nearly did it. We nearly set out the intention. But we just got very, very unfortunate last minute. And it's a hard pill to swallow. Still keeping Diaz, not Nunes. I don't know what that means, to be honest with you, mate. I thought Martin Atkinson was a bad ref. I don't recall any games specifically, but I don't know of any. I make a point that if I remember a ref having a good game, I will remember their name. None come to my mind. None come to my mind. Because I want to be fair. I want to be fair and reasonable, and I will give praise to a referee if they deserve it. But none of them do, sadly. Why don't we get the refs? Why don't we get refs from the continent? I would. Well, I mean, they're not perfect, but they are better than what we've got. Like the refs that they have in the Champions League, the refs that they have in other leagues, we should get them. They're not perfect, but they are better than what we've got. We've got probably, and again, this might be biased because I only watch the Premier League and not the other leagues, but we've got the worst refereeing system in the world. For in offset for the quality of the Premier League. Was that Udogi not on a yellow already when he made the gesture for a card, which is a punishable offence? I don't know. I don't know when that gesture was in the game. I don't even know. I didn't even realize he picked up a yellow card. Because I don't. How many? Well, let's have a look. What was the stats at the end of the game? Spurs. Where's Liverpool? Let's have a look. How many yellow cards do we end with? So we ended with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yellow cards. So that's counting Jota's 2, and 1 red card. And Spurs finished with 4, 5, 5, which is more than I thought, to be honest. But I remember at the end he was very card happy towards Spurs. And honestly, that would explain a lot because he probably realised he was giving Liverpool players a lot of cards throughout the game, so would only give the Spurs ones at the end of the game, to make it seem more fair at the end result. But yeah, shambolic, shambolic. Must we appeal again and a fucking just give an apology? I mean, they'll give an apology, but I don't want an apology. I want actual action. I want justice, basically. Which sounds dramatic, but I want people I want it to be that you don't just have to bite the bullet and deal with it. You made a human error. Diaz was onside. Give the goal retrospectively. Why haven't you got that power? You work with the Premier League. You work with Sky. You work with all these places that you can intervene and go, we officiated the match wrong. We request that this be considered. They're not going to do it because it doesn't. It's too much effort. Diogo looked like he was trying to get every Liverpool player booked. He was involved in a few. I mean, that is the players will do that though. We kind of do it sometimes. We do it less so because we win that fair play award thing where we used to get like very little yellow cards and fouls against us, and I don't really recall that many players that we have ever asking for players to be booked. I know obviously McAllister did it early in the season. But generally we don't tend to do that. Other players will do it because it's part of the game, it's part of the tactics, it's like tactical fouls. But it's scummy. It's part of it. You've got to get used to it because it's part of the game, but it's scummy. And the fact that he tripped himself over and started crying was just pathetic. Also, Pedro Porro, there was a moment where Robbo was going for the ball with Pedro Porro, and Pedro Porro's not even making it subtle. He's just looking Robbo straight in the face before he jumps and gets elbowed and tries to win a foul. That should have been given a card, and it wasn't. It was given a card against Robertson, but he wore red, so that's fine. So you got 4 dafties in room and still don't get it right. Well, 2 at least. The other 2 who collected the data and the footage, I don't think can intervene. They just collect. They're just doing They're just getting the clips. They're just getting the bits that the official refs, VAR refs need to see. They might disagree with the decisions. They might agree with the decisions. I have no idea, but at least 2 divvies in the room, at least. I swear they must be box-eyed, these VAR guys. I mean, they're definitely not line-eyed because they can't fucking see the lines for shit. What's the point of football body investigation investigating themselves? Sorry, I'll try that again. What's the point of football body investigating themselves when clearly they don't want to take blame? It needs an independent footballing body investigating. I mean, technically, they are 2 separate entities because it's the FA that conduct all the investigations, but it's also the FA that employ or associate with the PGMOL. So, I don't know which way round it is. One is a subset of the other, and I think it's the FA is the top level, and then the FA PGMOL is the level below. They're the ones that employ the VAR the referees, the officials, the linesmen. The use of VAR, and ultimately, whenever a decision gets made, it goes to the FA, like you would the normal. If you got an issue with someone in the workplace, you would go to their manager. The manager would investigate it. But because the FA is the boss of the PGMOL, they usually back them, and that's why subsequent action never normally gets taken unless it's very, very obvious and there's going to be a lot of public outcry for it. This might happen, but the standards set so far don't give me much hope. So I agree. There's no point in investigating yourself, because if you investigate yourself, you're like, well, I don't think I did anything wrong, so I'm not gonna give myself any punishment, and you just have to deal with that. It's like, well, how's that fair? How is that good officiating? It's just killing football. Um, I don't watch rugby, but them refs are respected. Well, NFL, rugby, I think tennis have good refereeing systems and referees. And it's just baffling that like the Premier League is like, well, football itself is probably like an English sport now. I don't think it was created here, but I think we generally are the most passionate towards football. It's like the country sport or whatever. Um, and we've got the best or the most revenue generating league in the world, and we've got the worst officials for it. And it's just baffling how that's, because it's been the same. It's been the case for about 5 years. Well, it's always been the case, but it's getting worse. The standard is dropping massively. Like, so many rules that they make every season are subjective and contentious, and the rules shouldn't be subjective. You should make them unavoidable. You should make them um corruptible, unbendable. That way it avoids any issue, because you can't argue a fact. It's a fact. You could argue the law making it the fact, but you can't argue the fact. Um, so yeah, I'd like to see Endo get more game time. McAllister is in a number 6, and Klopp is holding him back from going forward and doing what he does best. I think he's fine as a 6, but I agree he does definitely need to get upfield more. Endo is. We need to be careful with Endo, because he's a very easy target for our fan base. A lot of Twitter trolls nowadays just look at his age and go, "Oh, he's past it. He's shit." He's such an easy target. If he has one bad game, he's gonna get dogs abuse online, and it's not fair. We need to make sure he gets his confidence up so that he can play to the best visibility, because I believe if he does get to the best of his ability, he will be a good player for us. The game the other week against Germany, he was fantastic in that midfield for Japan, and if we can get that out of him week in, week out, I think we've got a player in our hands, especially for the price he came in at. But we need to make sure that he's not thrown in at the deep end, because the Premier League is a high intense, high physical game compared to the Bundesliga. And with his age and with his, expectations and his price tag and whatnot, it's very easy for fans to just target him for no real reason. So we need to be careful. I would like him to get to full confidence so we can start using him as effectively as possible, so we can get McAllister up the pitch, but we need to just be careful for it. So there has to be repercussions for the refs and the VAR team, because they will just keep repeating the same failures, and they do need a wake-up call. I say, I don't think anyone disagrees with that, but the likeliness of that happening is just so slim that it's depressing. And it's an uphill battle, because now you've got to not only beat the team but beat the referee, and that's a hard job considering how untouchable they are. Liverpool got investment, but it's not a lot of money, and FSG will want to use it to pay off Liverpool's debt. But that could be in a video in itself, really. Grim Reaper, that could really be in a bit. We might do a video on that, actually. Probably will. But the club is sustainable, but a lot of the situations over the last few years have made it difficult to run in the way that it was run. And we had too much debt that we didn't want on the club's books, I guess. And ultimately, it's an umbrella anyway. Like, we see when FSG take out profits and dividends. So basically, when they just want to take money out the club, we can see when that happens. But I don't think they're gonna do that with this. I'll be honest, I don't think they're gonna take dividends out. I don't think this is just gonna go into FSG's pocket. At least in a straight handshake kind of way. If it's gonna be done, it's gonna be done in a roundabout way. But I believe they want to just pay off Liverpool's debt, and that could be to do with the stand, that could be to do with the hit from COVID, that could be to do with the player fees that we've had. But ultimately, it should face value anyway fall under the same umbrella. If we've got debts that we can clear off, that means we're not using the profits from the season to pay off those debts, which means we've got that money available to be used on transfers. So we won't get a £160 million cash injection up front, but we will be able to recoup that money, maybe not as much, but in some other ways, in other money that we could use once that's been cleared up. So I still think we need another 2 defenders to tighten up at the back. VVD and Matip just don't have the legs. I've argued with other fans that the training ground and stadium expansion was put down to death. Well, I mean, it was put down to debt, but it's been sustainable and paid off. Like, to my knowledge, the AXA Training Centre, a lot of that was paid for by AXA, hence the naming rights. And the same's being done with Melwood, and the stand is pretty much all paid for, I believe. And I think this is just because of this situation with the building management that was in charge of the away stand. They just we were in a worse position than we thought we would be in, because ultimately we were losing money on that stand because we weren't able to get the full attendance because of it being closed. And I think we just wanted to make sure that, you know, we had enough to cover. Because don't forget, by the way, that the minority share that was sold was for 160 million. Now the club's valued at 3 to 4 billion, so that's a very minority share. And they will probably make that back quite quickly, I'd imagine. Which in the article was true, and they didn't, and everyone said FSG paying for it when they didn't. AXA paid 20 million for 4 years for naming rights, 20 per year. I don't know the ins and outs of the whole contract, but I believe FSG didn't pay for it, but they took it in debt so that it didn't affect us too badly. And it's a good idea as long as it doesn't affect us too badly, but I think it did. And I don't know if that was foreseeable or not, but I'm not here to make accusations and, whatever. But yeah. We've got the investment. We can clear off the debts allegedly, and we should be able. That should free up some more money that we can use. That was going to be used to clear off those debts. But yeah, I'm gonna end the video or the stream here. Interested to see where this goes. I don't expect much action. We'll have to just see what happens with it. Red cards rescinded, maybe, retrospective goal being given, maybe. Chances, unlikely. Possibility, there, I suppose, in the 0.01% chance it happens. It's just one of those. We might have to just bite the bullet, but you're right to feel hard done by. You're right to feel disappointed. You're right to feel victimized, not victimized, definitely not victimized. You're right to feel betrayed, I guess, in some ways. But you've just got to use that to fuel a fire. You've just got to use that to fight the powers that be, because ultimately authority is power, and power can be exploited very easily. But everyone with power has a weakness. Everyone with power has something they need to keep them in that power. And that is, for this situation, it is, fans protesting, maybe not the game specifically, but protesting in some form or another, making sure the situation doesn't just die down, making sure they know that apologies just aren't good enough. And ultimately, we as fans can't do anything directly, but if we make enough noise, clubs will have to listen to us. Clubs will then have to take action themselves, question the organisations like the PGMOL, which would then go to the FA. If the FA don't make the right decision subsequently, then we have to question the FA. And only by keeping on them and making sure it's known that this isn't good enough, will anything actually change? So, yeah. It's good to see that all of the other rival fans agree pretty much, because it's scary times for the Premier League with this refereeing system. And yeah, on to the next one. So, if you did enjoy the live stream, make sure you leave a like on it. Let me know what you think. If you're watching this back, in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed watching me rant and moan for about an hour and a half, then give me a subscribe with a notification on, because we'll probably start doing more of these live streams just because they're nice for like a little afterthought and getting your head cleared out and calming yourself down or discussing something that happened. It's nice. It's nice. So make sure you do that, and I will see you guys in the next one in a bit, lads.